I made Abraham's harness from scratch. I used to work horses years and years ago, and I had some memory of how workhorse harness was made. But it was horse collar type harness, which means it laid on his collar on his shoulders. Here, a horse collar lays on the shoulders here, on each side, and a metal thing lays across it and has a bar that sticks out about right here, and it holds the trace, which goes to the back and allows them to pull the load. And this part here is the strongest part of an equine. They can put more force right there with this bar than they can any other way. And if you look at Abraham's, you can see that his shoulders stick out sharply and are massive. But if you look at Kitty, you see that her shoulders barely stick out at all. She's built different. He's built much more like a draft animal, and she's built much more like a light animal, light work animal. And so, although I could have made him collar harness, and I still think about it. I think a lot about making him a collar and some hames, which are the bars that lay on the collar, because it would enable him to apply more force at his shoulders without having to work any harder in his legs and feet. That's my standard of efficiency: get more work done without putting any more energy into it. The modern world standard of efficiency is pour in the energy so that you can get work done at whatever ridiculous speed, no matter how much energy you waste. So it's a different underlying viewpoint. But anyway, I've got to make harness for Kitty and Clara, both. And the fact is that Clara is nowhere near grown to her full size yet. So I'm going to make her harness the same size as Kitty's. And at her age, she can't do much work. But that doesn't matter. You know, she can wear harness and walk with it on, and she can pull little things, you know, that weigh 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, just to learn the experience of it. You know, she can't, her legs are equine's legs when they're born are made out of separate muscles or separate bones that lay alongside one another. And in the foreleg and in the foot, and as they mature, those bones fuse and become one big strong bone. And if you work them when they're too young, it causes those bones to separate from one another and flap around in there, and because of the separation, they can never fuse, and so you've permanently made an animal lame for no purpose except to get what you thought was work sooner. So she won't do any hard work for a long time. She's almost 3. She won't do any hard work for at least 2 years. She won't do any serious work for at least 2 years. But she can pull little light things around. You know, the sort of thing that your 12-year-old daughter could pull around, and learn all the learning of it, and without having to concern ourselves about, you know, injuring her. So anyway, I'm going to get Abe's harness out, and I'm going to show you in some detail how I made it. And I want viewers to understand that this is not the way to make donkey harness. This is not the be-all and end-all, and nobody else knows how as well. This is a way to make donkey harness that, if you should choose to imitate it, will enable you to get a reasonable amount of work done with the donkey. So, at no time in any of my videos do I want anybody to think that this is it. This is the final word. This is how it is. Because as I say often, I'm really making this up as I go along. I'm using a combination of memory and things I've read and things I noticed while I'm working. But I can't even remember his harness well enough. It's only been a couple of years since I made it, a year and a half, something. I can't even remember it well enough to make them harness without having his out as a model to look at. So I'm going to harness him up right where he is, not to do any work, but just to wear it and model it for me. And I'm going to let you watch that from closer, I think closer than I have on any other videos, and give you a better idea of all the parts of a workable light work harness for light work. This is not heavy draft. This is not a harness that an animal would pull a plow with, or, you know, pull a truck out of a ditch with. This is light work, because the work that we do around here is light work. That's one of the reasons that donkeys are so much more appropriate than horses, is because I do a different kind of work. I do a kind of work that is more walking around using tools than you know, tillage or anything like that. So anyway, here we go. Abe Salter's black. Go muffle. There. Oh, there we go. Oh. There we go. There we go. That's my boy. The plan here is to never use any more pressure on the animal than is absolutely required to get the job done. I know, girls, I'll get out of it in a minute. I'm standing in your lunch. I know, just a minute. Now I'm going to tie him here just for formality's sake. But there's going to be a mile of rope so he can still easily get to his food. Okay, so now he's tied up for harness. Hang on a minute. This is Abe's harness. I need to redo this closet, so I have three. I want to have a pin here, and here, and there, and be able to hang the harness that orientation instead of this orientation. But this was what I had the day I started, and I just never fixed it. Okay, that's his breast collar, and that's a separate piece. And the rest of this, and this, that's all one piece, and it's the body portion of it. And so I'm going to put this back up and let you watch me pick it up, if I can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start up at our right. I'm going to pick that piece, and then the green, and that right there, and I'm going to hang them all on my hands like this. And I'm going to carry them over and put them on Abe. I think instead of letting you try to see that because my back will be in the way, I'm going to go ahead and put this back where you can see Abe as this happens. Okay. Okay, now I can't see the screen, so I don't know if you can see this. But what I've got is I've got this harness opened up. And my arms are where his back is going to be. And everything hanging farthest from me is going to go on his right side. And everything hanging closest to me is going to go on his left side. That's the first step. Okay. Now, hello, Kitty. You don't need to go anywhere. I just want to. You can watch this. Okay, now you can see that that's the first step. Now, this piece is called the britchen. I spell that B-R-I-T-C-H-E-N. I don't know that everyone agrees with me. Hang on, Katie. I had to close the closet because I play with stuff. The britchen wraps around their haunches right here, and it goes beneath their tail. This piece that goes on top right here, that's called the spider. And all it does is it provides a central point. These two straps are just to hold the britchen at a usable height. This ring here is because I used to have it different and I've changed my mind, but I left the ring on it. The point of the britchen, when they are attached to a cart and the cart's behind them and they go down a hill and the cart wants to roll up, the cart pulls the britchen like this, and the back end of them provides a braking force. So actually each end of the animal provides force when you're working. Okay? Step over here just a little bit, right? Over. Come here. Come here. Come here. That's a good boy. Okay. This piece here is called a crupper. And it goes beneath the tail and comes back up and buckles like this. Now the only purpose of this is just to provide an anchor point. The harness lays along the animal's back, and you want the forces to be balanced so that it stays centered. And so the crupper is to balance that. I'm going to move this, hang on just a second. These two green straps, they fasten at the center front point of the spider, and they go up and they form a V, and then they support that. And because of that V, as he moves left to right and pulls, the harness doesn't want to fall off. When I first made this harness, I used one straight piece. It fastened at that same ring. It went straight up his back. It hooked to these rings and then up to here. But that didn't work because when he moved, it would pull offside. So I needed something that would provide a balanced pull. So this is version 2.0. That's why that's a different color. I ran out of black. Okay, now this piece here is the back saddle. It's the belly band, which wraps under his belly, and these are shaft loops. They hold the cart shafts, and you've seen them when I hook him to the cart. The cart goes back there, and I put something on him, and that's what I'm doing. Is I'm putting the cart, first I put it in one of these, and that lets it hold it, and it pulls it off center, but then I go put it on the other one and straighten it back out. This is lamb's wool. It's literally a lambskin, and it's just fastened beneath the webbing. And the lambskin is to cushion his back so that the load won't hurt him and it won't be uncomfortable to him. Okay. Now, so this piece does those things. It supports the weight, it supports the shafts, and it fastens the harness in place by going around his belly. Ideally, these would be sewed down more so they couldn't go up, but I haven't done that, and they work reasonably well. This here, that's a piece I put on for a purpose I'm about to show you. Okay, so that's the body of the harness. Now you see there's a strap on each side of him right here, and they're hanging to his breeching. The only purpose those serve when he's working alone is to keep the breeching squared so that it can't pull off to one side or the other or get slantwise. And that's what this little ring on this red strap is for, and it slips so it doesn't bind on him. And that's to keep things put together for a single working animal. Okay, so now those and this. Now there's the breeching is adjustable. I've got his hanging a little low on him, and I can adjust it higher, and I really should. These things here, these metal things, are called Conways. They're not the same as a buckle. They exist to provide adjustment like that. But I need another hole to make that one adjust farther. All the holes in this plastic, I've just made all those by taking a soldering iron and poking it through. Works like a champ. Now these rings here, these are for when he works with a bit. And I have lines, and I'm behind him with long lines or reins. And the reins go through here. Then they also go through these rings here, and then they go to his bit. And that way, that's just so they can't fall down and get tangled up in his feet. So these things are just to support stuff. And they weigh almost nothing, and so I don't bother to take them off when I'm not working him with reins, because they don't hurt any. These two hooks here, I'm going to show you what those are for. Those are trace carriers, and when he's working, the traces are the harness parts that enables him to pull the load. And when he's not working, you know, they can't just be dragging around the ground, so they hook here. So that's for between work. This piece here is the breast collar and the traces. It's got, like his back saddle, a lamb's wool cushion to make it comfortable. It's got these 4 rings on it, and they're for supporting it. This lays across his chest thusly, and when he works, he walks into it. And he walks forward, and that's where the force, driving force, to make the load move comes from. At the back, these have 1, 2, 3 holes in the traces and a D-ring, and those are how it hooks to his load. You see, this middle one is more worn than the others. That's the one that I use typically on his cart. Okay, so this goes around in front of him, and then along back both sides of it. This piece here supports the breast collar. This and this hook through those loops I just showed you, and there's 2 more just like them on the other side. So this keeps the breast collar from falling down off his shoulders. The objective is to lay that breast collar along the points of his shoulders so that he can put the pressure where he's got the most strength. It's not as efficient as a real horse collar, but it's better than not having anything. You know, it works. It's better than wrapping a strap around their belly, which you'll see some. Now I've laid this down and I've got hay on it, and that won't do, because if you leave those dirty, when he works, his pressure will grind those grits into his flesh and hurt him. So you have to keep this all clean. This goes around him, lays back over his back, like that. This one does too. And that's how these work. Now these straps, I just added this part. I only had these straps, but I wasn't satisfied. I felt that I felt that his breast collar was sliding down off his shoulders from the front, and that I didn't have enough control over it with just these side straps. So I made these new straps to hold it up there. And as you can see, they're still too long. I need to cut these off about there. Okay, now that's how the breast collar holds up there. I'm going to go to the other side. Scooch over a little bit, bud. Over. Good boy. Possibility I may put some of that sheepskin under that too. Now, gosh, you good girl. Okay, now you can kind of see here, if he was pulling something, whoops, sorry. If he was pulling something, these would be back here behind him. Okay, steady. And you can see how the force would be applied at the points of his shoulders. Honey, don't. Usually, because what he pulls isn't real wide, these work better if they're inside the belly band, but that's not critical. That's how those work. Okay, now he's completely harnessed and ready to work. I'm going to go around front and show you the front view. Okay, I was trying to pause that other video, but the phone rang and it doesn't work that way, so I'm going to have to put these two videos together somehow. Okay, now if you look at Abe's chest, you see how his breast collar sticks out both sides. I'm going to go over there and lift his head up. a second, big guy. Up you come. Come here. Up we go. Up we go. Just a minute. Up we go. Just a minute. I know. Come on. Up, up, up. Up, up, up. Up, up, up. Yes. Okay, you can see how his breast collar fits across the front. I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, go ahead. You're fine. Anyway, that's harnessing a donkey. And now I have to make basically all those same parts again times 2 to fit these 2 girls. And because the sizes and adjustments will be different, I'll be making them out of different colors. Since the 2 of them drew different colored halters out of the farm stock when they came here, Clara got a red one and Kitty got a green one, so I got red webbing and green webbing to make their 2 harnesses with. And then Abraham, of course, wears the multicolored webbing appropriate for the wise man. And that's all there is. Thank you.